Hey guys, Coach Hug here. I know last month, January, and this month we're still doing chess structures. We went over, um, what was it? I think 3 versus 4-2. We did isolated pawn. We did like a few lessons on French structures, and now we're going to do a few on Italian structures. As a coach, part of my style is I'm preferably going over structures that I've like at least played in tournaments or have more of an understanding than per se like structures like the Caro, which I think I have a little less like play around. So I'm kind of going in depth with that while we're doing these other structures because I've had more experience with those. And we will hit on the Caro later, but for this one we are doing the Italian, which I know you guys know is like an e4, e5, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4. I know you guys all know the Italian, and other than my team, I know some people would know what the Italian is. And we're going to go over common ideas, common like tricks, tactics that you'll see in these situations. And this one is black to move. What happened was black played b5 because they're like, I'm going to attack that bishop, and after, I'm going to make sure to square that off. And interestingly, this queen got to f3. And I want you guys to pause and try to find how white can punish a wrong b5 that black does. Ooh. 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 Okay. Unpause. The move is just a simple and only forcing line is AXB5. And this is, I mean, when you play B5, even though you're attacking a bishop, you really have to look at the main line of if they just take this pawn. Because why can they not take back? Does anyone know why? If we look at the eval, is because if they take back, then rook take a8. And really, because this queen is on f3, this is why this is a beautiful pin. And basically black would struggle, and black probably wouldn't take back. They would probably go a5 and just beat down a pawn, but this is a very strong pawn. It's a passer, and it's protected by this bishop, and it's very hard to dislodge. So white would be at least better in this game and potentially would win. Now to go on to the second tactic. Okay, so black has kind of a setup in this Italian where they have their bishops maybe a little passive, their knight on c6 and f6, and really they haven't really moved much pawns here, and really just went with this setup. And white basically had their knight on c3, and they jumped to d5 to really put pressure on this bishop on e7 and this knight on f6. And usually this setup can work for white because we're basically saying, hey, this is a pin. It's just this bishop on e7 maybe has other things to say. So how can black punish knight to d5? I'll give you guys a second. Ooh. 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 Unpause. There is only one move, and that move is knight take d5. And for a second, you're like, what? My whole idea was to go to knight d5 to apply pressure to this. But the queen and the bishop have this beautiful battery and can basically attack this this bishop. So basically, if we go through some of the lines here, really their best shot would be going ex d5, and after bishop x g5, dx c6, bishop x c6. Black is only up a pawn, but like the first game is kind of a strong pawn, maybe not as strong as the first game, but black would only be better here, even having the two bishops. And if they ever took the queen would even be in a better place. But yeah, this would be the best line that black could do, because if we look at any other line after knight x d5, let's say they tried to do bishop x d7, my knight can just go back, and then any other line would be like bishop x d5, then they can still do the bishop x g5. So yeah, basically all the pins work in black's favor, and you really have to look when you're playing, when they're playing for pins, if those pins actually work. And in this situation, knight c3 to knight d5 just doesn't work. Now let's go to the third game. But yeah, so let's go to this game. Basically, this one's a little bit different, right? The bishop isn't on e7. And to just go and talk about structures for a little bit with the Italian, you can get so much. People play the Italian at the top level, even now, because there's so much play that you can do. There's so much style. There's so many different like little nuances and really a lot of different structures you can get in the Italian. I'm only really going over a few, and I'm really just trying to show you that like these pins sometimes don't work. These little nuances in the structure are different than basically other lines you can get in the Italian, and it's all very fun to do. So yeah, basically this is black to move, and for this one's a little bit more positional. This isn't per se a tactic with like a pin or something like that. I want you to think of maybe a common idea that black can do in this middle game. So I'll do some waiting music. This one will just be a doo doo, a doo doo, a doo doo, and then unpause. This one is really, I think, the best best puzzle, I think, for this, because basically I hope that you guys looked at like a lot of different moves, because there are two good moves that I think just you still have a good, I would even say like a slight better position for black. It's really a5 or knight e7, and these are two common ideas. That isn't the move that is the best move, but why these are even common ideas, and I'm really happy about this position for black, is when you do knight e7, there's potential play where you can get g6 and f4, and really these maneuvering moves you really have to look for in this type of structure. And if not knight e7, if we look at a5, we really want to burst open to that b4 square, and if they like take, we're only being able to develop with like knight take a5, and this bishop is really misplaced. And basically the third move, instead of knight e7 or a5, and this is I would argue the best move and the most common idea in these structures, is d5. Black is really playing for d5 a lot in the Italian because it just opens up their center, and they're really getting all their pieces to development really like faster than white is here. And basically after d5, they can do a series of moves. Basically, let's say they took the pawn, we can go knight x d5, and they can go bishop x d5, queen. Our queen's active, our bishop's in a good place. This bishop is a monster. And we can look through maybe some more lines with d5. So let's say, here they can go knight e4. We could basically, king h8 is a little weird, but why we're doing king h8 is sometimes we're going to want g5, rook g8, and those are ideas that maybe can be a little bit hard to see, but basically black, you have to just understand that they're way more active than white, and getting their king to a safer square to be able to push that g5 and move even f5 is how black usually plays in this. So yeah, and let's actually look at one line if they don't take. Let's say they don't take. Let's say they go back to b3. It's actually kind of interesting. They can even play d4. And really this d5 is basically saying, if you don't take and open up this position, and I even get more active, I'm just going to close it down and basically make you like suffocate, right? So if they go like cx d4, and then like let's say knight x d4, basically Wait, they actually like something else more for black. Oh, they even like bishop x. Wow. Because again, guys, you can't go knight x because the beautiful pin only works in black's favor here. And after like rook b1, bishop c3, we're only applying pressure in this situation for black. So yep, let's go into the fourth puzzle. There we go. And basically, this is a game I played, and I really like this game. And I used to play e5 against like e4, and I know all of you guys play the Italian, or at least have like played against black against it, and you want to know like what moves, what plans, what are you doing? Basically, in the middle game, in a lot of these situations, black wants g5. And sometimes, you know, you're scared of like h4 and you have to care about them undermining that. But basically, you get king g7 in, maybe you get rook h7, rook g7. It's kind of like a cool, cool middle game ideas that you're doing for black and the Italian. And white is maybe, like I said, trying h4, rook e1, and basically this situation. Um, but maybe I jumped the gun. Like I went knight f6, I went king g7, and the last move I did was knight h5. And there is a cool move here for white, and this is the last puzzle. And you guys know that the last puzzle is usually the hardest. So take your time and really try to think and understand why maybe knight h5 wasn't the best move for me to do in this position. And yeah, we'll do the woo. Wait a minute, woo, woo. And then so for this one, oh sorry, woo, unpause. Uh, Basically, I told you guys the last move. I think maybe the last one I didn't tell you guys the last move. I tell you guys the last move of the position because usually it's that piece, right? That's maybe that was defending a piece, right? Or it's now weaker now, and you have to see why now, because of that move, is maybe a certain move the most advantageous. Maybe a complicated way of saying it, but with knight h5, you have to understand that this knight is just super weak, right? And how can I really attack that knight? You know, I have no way to attack it. This bishop doesn't do anything. This knight doesn't do anything. This bishop doesn't do anything. None of my pawns attack this knight. So how can I attack it? Well, my opponent found it, and he found knight x e5. And there's one complicated line in here. I'm kind of gonna go through like just simple lines for real quick. Basically, what can black do here? If they take on dx e5, like I said, this weak knight, and I can just go queen take h5, and I'm just up a clear pawn. I took that, right, uncovered a pin of that knight, and my queen was really the only thing that could attack that knight, and then I take on h5. And then the probably the most confusing line you guys probably had to look at, well, let's go with one other simpler line, I'd say, is knight x e5. If they go bishop x, I can then go pawn x, and black, wait, sorry, what? Okay, sorry, your coach got a little confused there. If they go, what am I doing here? Sorry. Wait, if they go knight x, they can still just do queen x. Yeah, white doesn't take. You just go here. Yeah, sorry about that. So yeah, basically they have that queen take a5 on either of those situations. And wait, if you're wondering, sorry, if queen x5, they take here, and you're like, I want to weaken their pawn structure, they have a knight on c4, which is kind of a monster. And now let's go with the most complicated line. And I actually played this in the game. It is the best line. Knight x g3. And why I did it, I'm attacking the rook. And basically, I wanted a situation where I did not want that queen on h5. I knew it would be a monster there. I knew that if I had to give a pawn, I wanted to be more on my terms and with maybe more activity. and they went knight x c6, and I went bx c6, and then they can do, I think they did hx, because if they can't do fx, because this bishop is still a monster and the main component for black and these structures. And basically the game continued on here. It was like a 65 game, and somehow I came back and was at a winning position, crazily enough. But they held really well. It was a really cool game, and it teetered to a draw. Basically, he was up, with this kind of position. I came back, right, and then just equal. But yeah, this was definitely the most complicated line, and if we even look at with an engine, we can see after knight x c5, the engine even says, yeah, knight x g3, knight x c6, bx c6, hx, and yeah, it continued off here. But yeah, so just want to clarify why, yeah, knight x here is not good, because yeah, I was right, queen x h5. But yeah, that was a good game. Those were all good puzzles, and I think all of them have their own nuance. This one was uncovering an attack on the knight h5. The first one was basically saying b5 was too early, which is a common idea in these structures. 3 was saying d5 was the critical move in these structures, and you guys got to say why a5 and knight e7 may be a way to play. And then let me look at the last one. It was 2. Come on. Yep. Why? If you go knight d5, you have to make sure maybe the bishop shouldn't be on e7, and you have to make sure this pin is strong. The pin does work. So I hope you guys learned something more about the Italian structures, and yeah, I hope you guys will play some Team Blitz, maybe even Team Rapid. Just really have a lot of fun, and I will see you guys next week. I hope you guys learned something from this practice, and we will do more about Italian structures on Thursday.